Good morning and happy Vlogmas. Welcome to day 11. So a bit of a different video for today because I don't know how much footage I'm going to get this weekend with my partner's father being up. So we're looking at how I make my mincemeat. Now you do need to leave mincemeat to rest for at least 2 weeks before you use it, so you've just got enough time to make it if you do it today, as in when you're watching this video. In time for Christmas. If not, you've got mince pies for New Year's. It's fine. And mincemeat will keep for up to 6 weeks, but using this recipe, I mean, it probably would keep longer, to be fair. Alcohol's a preservative and it's soaked in alcohol, so yeah, should be fine. But the recipe says 6 months. So that's worth knowing. And let's get to it. Okay, so making mincemeat. Unlike what you might expect from the name, there is no meat involved. It's a fruit mixture soaked in alcohol, left to mature for a few weeks and then turned into pies. So we're going to start by soaking the fruit. It's going to need to soak for at least an hour, so I'm doing this a little bit ahead of time. So first up, we're going to weigh out some fruit, and I've got a bigger bowl to pop it in to soak it in. And we're going to start with the main part of the fruit. We're going to start with some currants. Obviously there's going to be a bit of rustling in packets here. So we need 375 grams of currants. Now that's actually 379 grams and I'm okay with that. My mother grew up with her grandmother living in the house with her, Aunt Nana Brown, and when they were baking with her, they'd ask her, how much weight of ingredients do you need for this particular recipe? And her response was invariably, until the scales go bonk. So that is pretty much the baking philosophy in my family. So that's the currants into the bowl. Next we're going to just make sure that's on 0, and we're going to add 200 grams of raisins. I'm hoping I've got enough raisins left. If not, I'll top it up with sultanas. Okay, so that's just over 200 grams of raisins. And you know what, I'm just going to chuck the rest in. So there's actually an extra 25 grams there, but there's no point in saving 25 grams of raisins. So yeah, I didn't need to worry about not having enough raisins, but I have in the past made this with sultanas instead of raisins because I didn't have any in. It's fine. You work with what you've got. Okay, so that's currants and raisins. Next we need cranberries. Cranberries are not, as far as I'm aware, a traditional part of mincemeat, but I pretty much put cranberries in all my baking that's fruit based over Christmas. So my pudding, my cake and my mincemeat all get cranberries in. So we need 50 grams of cranberries. Again, this is something that I'm not overly precious about how much. We're going to put a few extra in as we've got extra in of everything else. So yeah, it's going to be about 75 grams. But technically, you're looking at, if you're being accurate, 50 grams of cranberries, 200 grams of raisins, 375 grams of currants. And as I say, I have gone slightly over that. Now this year I've got whole cranberries. In previous years I've had them chopped. So I'm just going to move that out of the way. Pop these out onto my chopping board. I'm just going to cut them up a little bit, just so they go a bit further in the mixture. So I'm just going to rough chop them. I'm not going to worry too much about whether I get all of them. I just want to break them up a little bit. You can see I am not a pro chef. My knife technique is not quite there. Okay, I'm happy with that. Just a little bit of breaking up of some of the cranberries. Not going to worry too much about being precise. Try not to knock the camera. Okay, so just pop them in the bowl with the rest of the fruit. And the next thing to add is the zest of a lemon, and then the juice of half of a lemon. So I don't have a fancy zester, so I'm just going to grate the lemon peel into the bowl. I find it easier with lemon than I do with orange, weirdly. Okay, so I'm not worried about getting literally all of the zest off the lemon. Again, precision, not really necessary for this recipe. But there's also going to be some mixed peel going in when we put the mincemeat together. So that will cover the peel portion of the mixture. Okay, so then we need to add half a lemon, well, the juice of half a lemon. Again, I don't have a lemon zester, juicer thing, so I'm going to do it by hand. I find it helps if I just poke the cut edge with a knife a little bit. Don't know if it actually helps, I just find it does. I'm going to squeeze it through my fingers. That way if there's any seeds that pop out, I'm going to catch them. Obviously if I had a proper lemon juicer, then that would do the job for me. So as much as I can. Some people zap their lemons in a microwave before they juice them, say with oranges if they're doing it for hand. I don't yet have a microwave, so I don't do that either. To be fair, I probably wouldn't if I had a microwave because I'd probably forget. Okay, so that is all of the fruit. So now we've got the fruit sorted out, we need to add the alcohol. So measuring jug time. I am using Ruby Port. This is just from my supermarket, it's not fancy. You can use brandy, rum, sherry, you know, anything sort of Christmassy or festive if you don't celebrate Christmas. I don't know what sort of wines do people have at Hanukkah? Is it the same sort of thing as for Christmas? Because it's the same sort of time of year. No. If you know, let me know. Okay, so we need 100 mils of alcohol. So if I have the milliliter side of the jug facing me. Do love the colour of port. Again, to the scales go bonk, so if it's slightly over, don't worry about it. Okay, so that's my port measured out. Let's put the lid back on my port before I knock the bottle over. We're going to add that in there. To move these out of the way. I'm going to give it a bit of a stir and then cover it up and just leave it for at least an hour. So I want to make sure that the alcohol is mixed through a bit and that the majority of the fruit is going to get some. Okay, there we go. See, so I will cover that, leave it for at least an hour, come back to it later and make the rest. Okay, so the fruit is nicely soaked and I've prepped a few other bits and bobs. So let's start by, the next step in the recipe is to drain the fruit and reserve the liquid that's left, if there is any liquid that's left. So I'm going to drain it into the jug. Okay, so we're going to take our bigger bowl and we're going to pop the fruit back in there. I'm only using the smaller bowl to so that I'm not kind of having to get all of the fruit into the sieve at the same time when I'm draining it. But we do actually need it to be in the bigger bowl for the purposes of actually making the mincemeat. Okay, so I'm going to put it to one side for a minute so I can weigh out some other ingredients. I'll put that just here because as I weigh them out, I'm going to be adding them in to this bowl. Okay, so first up, we have 300 grams of suet. Now, I'm using vegetable suet. Suet traditionally is an animal product, but there's like no difference whatsoever between the animal suet and the vegetable suet in terms of how it cooks, and vegetable suet is quite readily available. So I've zeroed out my scale. And the suet comes in 240 gram boxes apparently, so you normally need more than one box. So that goes into our fruit mixture. I'm trying to make sure that bowl is zeroed off again on the scales. Next we are going to need some dark brown sugar. So we need 250 grams of this. This is a 500 gram bag, so we'll probably need about half of it. Oh, the smell of this sugar is amazing. This again, that goes into the fruit and suet mixture. Then we come to our mixed peels. This is a candied peel. You buy it in the supermarket. So we want 85. And again, that goes in to the bowl. So I'm just going to move my scales out of the way because that's all the weighing done. The recipe that I'm using actually says to use one large Bramley apple, peeled and grated. I could only get small Bramley apples and I decided to chop them this year rather than grate them, just for why not. I have put lemon juice on them, but apples still go a little bit brown when they're left to the air. It's nothing to worry about. So that's those, and the next ingredient is some ground nutmeg. So we need 2 teaspoons of this, or if you have like fresh nutmeg, you want to grind half of one. Okay, oh, I'm going to need to get some more nutmeg. Okay, so that's all in. I'm going to give that a bit of a mix. I should maybe have used a bigger bowl actually. Make sure it's thoroughly mixed through. So yeah, I am actually going to get my big bowl and swap it over. Because it's going to be easier to mix it in the bigger bowl. See, the sugars are clumped together a little bit, so we'll just try and break that up as best as we can. And we're going to add in the liquid that we held back. Okay, so I'm going to just mix this thoroughly. Then we'll get it put into some jars. Okay, so there we have 2 jars of mincemeat on wobbly can, because I'm handheld. So these can be stored for up to 6 months in the fridge. You do want to leave them for at least 2 weeks before you use mince pies, possibly longer if you can. And yeah, so that's that done. Next time you see those, I'll be making mince pies.